Welcome to part 3 of Nick at 35, where we're celebrating the 35 years of Nickelodeon's run. I am Patricia, and I am here with admins Gabe.
Insert pun here.
Tim. And James.
I'm here.
And with us today is a very special guest. He is the founder of the Rise and Fall of Nickelodeon Facebook page. Here we have Clint. Welcome aboard, Clint.
Hey, guys.
All right,
Good to be here.
Great. So today we're going to be discussing about Nickelodeon from the years 1990 to 1999. This is basically, according to many people's opinion, this is the beginning of the golden era of Nickelodeon. As we discussed about in part 2, the early 80s was at the point in which Nickelodeon was almost at the point of going bankrupt, being over $40 million in debt. So, two men by the...
40 million?
Yes, 40 million! That's more than 9,000!
It's over 9,000.
I never thought we would use this meme. I'm so sorry. So,
And now half the audience is gone because we used it.
I know. Bye-bye, audience. Thanks to a couple of people, most notably Geraldine Laybourne, who was the first president of Nickelodeon, and bringing along two people from MTV, such as Fred Seibert and Alan Goodman. They would come along and they did the advertisement for Nickelodeon, and they basically just redid Nickelodeon from the ground up. Instead of focusing on education, it was all about fun. It was all about that Nick is kids. So then time went on, and then shows for Nickelodeon started growing in popularity. We mentioned Double Dare, we mentioned the game shows, and we mentioned the crazy over-the-top talk shows. 1990, it was the beginning of the popularity of Nickelodeon. We can talk about 3 things that came out during this time period. Skate TV, Wild and Crazy Kids, and of course, Nickelodeon.
I thought Wild and Crazy Kids came out in 1991.
No, it came out in 1990.
Oh.
The pilot of Wild and Crazy Kids featured around in 1989, but they had different hosts for it, of course. And one of the hosts was a former host of Don't Just Sit There, which was the talk show that came out during 1988.
I saw the beginning of the pilot where, it was this kid wearing a gorilla mask.
Yes, that was the one.
That was weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, the show was called Wild and Crazy Kids.
That is true. So I guess those hosts didn't work out, and so we got new hosts for the eventual show, which was, it started off with Annette Sanchez, Omar Gooding, and Donnie Jeffcoat. The whole show was about that, let's take the idea of Double Dare, but bring it outside for the kids and have more people involved.
Yay!
Now, I gotta say that Wild and Crazy Kids is not my favorite game show that ever came out, because mostly, if you look at it now, the cinematography is sort of kind of bad, and it looks kind of homemade, and they have the crazy sound effects, and the way that the camera was shot was just ridiculous, and as I mentioned before, the hosts were pretty bland, but other than that, the games were kind of fun, and I'm glad that they were able to get more than 3 kids involved.
Yeah, I like the 90s version. I mean, the hosts I think they were good. I mean, there wasn't anything wrong with them. But, I mean, they weren't special. But then again, besides Mark Summers, really, You can't expect that out of a kids' game show host.
True.
The games, that's definitely Nickelodeon-ish, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Where you can just tell it, it has that charm to it.
Yeah.
It's a good show, I think.
Yes, it was a pretty decent show. It's not my favorite, but it was pretty decent.
I'm pretty sure it didn't really require an audition process. Or did it? Because it had a lot more kids.
Yeah, maybe they brought in
average kids.
Yeah, maybe they brought in those kids from school or something. You know how in Double Dare, Mark Summers was talking about how a lot of the kids that were brought in, they mostly auditioned from other schools. So maybe it was the same way, in which there was like a group of kids that came from school and then they came into the show and competed against one another.
Yeah.
Clint, what did you think of Wild and Crazy Kids?
I thought it was a good show. It had some good moments. As you guys said, the hosts weren't anything really memorable. Like, when you think hosts in Nickelodeon, the first one you automatically think of is really Mark Summers.
You can't really blame anyone for that.
Yeah.
No, not really. I mean, Nickelodeon game shows, they had some good ones, Legends of the Hidden Temple and Wild and Crazy Kids. But, usually Double Dare is usually the most remembered because of Mark Summers. But Wild and Crazy Kids still has some memories, some good moments. And as you said, it was entertaining enough.
Yeah, definitely. It was entertaining enough.
What was it? It was like boys versus girls, where there was this big, kiddie pool full of pudding. Mm-hmm. And, there were Frisbees in it with letters on them, and you had to write something.
Yeah, and what about the one that involved with a giant tooth that was covered in peanut butter, and you had to scrape it and use water guns to get rid of it the most? And then, of course, we have I think probably the best one, Wild and Crazy Kids versus Double Dare.
Yeah, but I haven't seen that episode. I really need to see that. But I've heard about it, though.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime you can really do a crossover with any Nick show is pretty good.
Yeah.
Even lesser crossovers, usually it's going to draw an audience.
Definitely, I think so too. What about you, Tim? What did you think of Wild and Crazy Kids?
I didn't watch it too much. I was too busy watching the game shows like Nick Arcade. That's all I really cared about. I liked it when I did watch it, with Jessica and Omar and stuff. It was fun to watch. Them acting silly. The most episodes that were stuck out of my mind would be the ones when they went to the mall.
Yes, I remember that one.
I was at the mall.
Nice, yeah. And I also remember the episode of Wild and Crazy Kids.
Wait, you were at that mall?
No, but I just remember that it's stuck in my mind because I always remember wanting to go to the mall and see the show.
Yeah, and there was also one episode of Wild and Crazy Kids in which some of the cast members from Salute Your Shorts would appear. Other than that, it didn't really last very long. I mean, it lasted until 1992, so it had at least 2 seasons worth of shows. But other than that, yeah, I think that Wild and Crazy Kids was pretty decent in itself. Let's get into the next one, which came out in 1990, which is Skate TV. Skate TV, there really isn't that much to talk about because it was about skateboarding.
Yay.
Later on, there's a Nicktoon about skateboarding.
Yeah, Rocket Power. Anyway, so the 1970s were really popular with skateboarding. The 80s, not so much. But then the 90s came along, and that was when skateboarding had a really huge comeback. And Skate TV was kind of like their attempt of bringing in the skateboarding crowd to Nickelodeon. And interestingly enough, one of the co-hosts of Skate TV was Matthew Lillard.
Who's that?
Matthew Lillard, the actor, Shaggy from Scooby-Doo.
Oh, him, yeah.
Yeah.
Zoinks.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't really watch the Scooby-Doo movies.
Oh,
hey
yeah.
guys, I just got here.
Jonathan!
Hi,
Hello,
Jonathan.
We're getting all kinds of surprise guests.
I know, it's crazy. So, interestingly enough, with Skate TV, there were actually a couple of guests over whom would later on become famous skateboarders. One of them being a very young Tony Hawk. This was before he became famous.
I'm not surprised he was on there for some reason.
Well, I think anything with a skateboard is going to attract Tony Hawk.
Yeah, I think this was when Tony Hawk was very young. I think he was around 18 or 19 when they filmed him. And they were discussing about various things in the show. They discussed about...
Before he was advertising hoverboards.
Well, no, he wasn't advertising hoverboards. I think he was there talking about ollies and also grinding and stuff like that. And throughout the show of Skate TV, they will be discussing about the type of boards that you should be buying, what kind of wheels you want to purchase for doing certain skateboarding. And yeah, it was basically about tips and tricks about skateboarding and showing off young kids who like to skateboard. So, this show, it came out during a time in which skateboarding was becoming popular, but not yet. Skateboarding started becoming more popular around the late 90s, and once again, we all know who is to thank for that, Tony Hawk and the X Games.
Yay!
Yeah, I do agree that Skate TV was kind of like the starting point of skateboarding really starting to become into prominence with, how all the extreme sports were going to start to come into play and start to come into popularity. And it was also a good show, like, as you said, getting the right boards, getting the right wheels. It's good safety precaution, you don't want, to get bad wheels or a bad board, have it, break during a trick or something. So really it was nice, to see that they saw it was coming into popularity and they also wanted, kids to be safe, like a safety first kind of thing.
Exactly. But yeah, Skate TV didn't really last very long. It only lasted for less than a few months right before it was canceled. So yeah, there's really nothing much to say about it other than...
Well, I guess I can't really blame them for canceling it.
There's
not much to say.
There's only so much you can continue to show.
That's true.
Unless you, start doing, skate competitions with the kids, like bringing in, making it, a bit of a game show, there's really not much you can show except, kids skateboarding and special guest skaters.
Yeah, that can definitely get old after a while.
It was a valiant effort to try and bring in a crowd, but, yeah, I can see definitely why that didn't last too long.
Mm-hmm. Alright, so now we can talk about the final thing that made Nickelodeon stand out during 1990. The opening debut of Nickelodeon Studios.
Yes!
Studios, Florida.
We totally don't care about that, though, obviously.
No way.
Sarcasm.
Exactly. We're not admins of the Reopen Nickelodeon Studios page for nothing.
Yeah, those people are insane.
Exactly.
So yeah, there's so
Sarcasm.
many things we can talk about the studios. The shows that were being filmed over there, the GAC room, the tours that they would used to give off, everything. There's really...
What it is now.
Yes,
Blue Man Group.
The Blue Man Group,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, Jonathan's picture impresses me.
I'm at least thankful that there's still remnants in there.
That is true.
Yeah, I'm going there in April, and I'm going up those stairs to see if it's still there.
I'm glad that the murals Universal doesn't want to spend the money to take all that out.
Yeah, I'm glad
So they're just, since no one's gonna really see it, they're just gonna leave it.
I'm glad they're cheap like that.
Yeah. Universal, if you're...
A guy asked them about the murals. He's like, oh yeah, they're taking them down. They went up there and they're still up there. He said, they're going up there. Went up the stairs and there they were.
Right.
Still a liar.
Universal, if you're listening to this, don't ever take those down.
I think people would sooner tie themselves to them murals before they take them down.
Yeah, there are people who would pay to go in there and see that. I'm surprised you guys aren't, charging people to just go in and see all this stuff. Then again, I guess it wouldn't be all that special when you sneak in.
Also, note to Universal, don't take down the production crew sticker.
Yeah.
Actually,
Also, note to everyone else, don't steal that thing, because, a huge chunk of it is missing because someone ripped it off.
Yeah.
I see. I was going to say that, actually, I think I saw a YouTube video where somebody did break into Universal Studios, when it closed down.
Yeah, there are quite a few videos where people have done that. Adam Lulu did, and he, because he did that, and because it was so popular, Universal has since heightened their security, which sucks.
Yep, we're looking for the time capsule at the hotel. We weren't looking for it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to see that when
I'm trying to contact you. You want to go back in the next video.
Yeah.
Yeah, that time capsule was buried around 92, which we'll get to when we reach 1992. But 1990, it started becoming, as we mentioned before, the late 80s was the beginning of the